Kia ora. Ko Maru Takuingoa. My name is Maru, and I'm here to tell you, first of all, just give you a brief introduction to my journey into game development, because it's pretty unconventional. When people ask me how on earth, especially friends that have known me for a long time, ask me, what was the switch? Why did you make the switch? But I'll start off with this little presentation first. So literally after 14 years in the hospitality industry, because that's what I was doing before, I had basically dropped out of school. I found that school wasn't very interesting. I was one of those kids that used to stare out the window and daydream and think about every other place I wanted to be except for school. However, I really did enjoy certain subjects at school, which were like technical drawing, science, and anything practical, anything hands-on. I loved it. But unfortunately, my assessment results, school cert in those days, didn't reflect that interest. And so I saw that and I thought, well, what am I doing in school? You know, if I'm not even good at what I enjoy, then what's the point? So I left school and decided to get into the workforce. And of course, my first job was working in retail in an op shop. I had no experience or no qualifications to do anything else. I spent the next 14 years working in between hospitality and retail. I had worked my way up from cashier, waitress, when I was old enough to be bartender, bar manager, eventually restaurant manager, and then I owned my own business. But I knew that that's not what I wanted to do. I only did it because I couldn't do anything else. But all through that time, I really enjoyed playing games. So one day, 14 years ago, I really had this call to action. It was like, Maru, you've got to do something else. So I had a dream, and my dream was really about taking that step forward into the unknown. I mean, because who am I? You know, I've been working in hospitality for 14 years as a manager. What do I know about making games? You know, I knew how to play them. I could kick anyone's butt, you know. Multiplayer games, it's like, yeah, bring it on. But I didn't know how to make them. So I had this dream to venture forward. Then I had thoughts, you know. I decided, okay, this is the journey I want to go on. I want to make computer games. I don't know where I'm going to start, but I'm just going to make it happen. And so I had to stand back and think to myself, well, how am I going to do that? You know. So the thinking girl there, I'm going to explain this character shortly. But I was very much like her, you know, sitting there thinking, how am I going to do this? From someone who only knows how to play games to actually making games is such a huge leap. You know, I didn't really know where to start. So basically, I just went for it. You know, I thought to myself, well, I can sit here forever and just think about it, or I can actually do something about it. So the first thing I did was take myself overseas to where the gaming, you know, conferences were, which were in E3, you know, big conferences in E3, which are in LA. Thousands of people there, you know, and I can relate to some of these stories that have been told about going to some of these tech conferences where you are one of 5, maybe 10 females out of 1,000. And I walked in and I felt really, I didn't think there was an issue before. I just thought girls play games, girls make games. You know, there wasn't anything in my mind to say that, well, girls don't make games. It wasn't until I was in the industry and I realised that I am only one of a very few that were at these places, at these conferences. So it was a little bit off-putting, but I kind of turned that and I thought, all right, well, I want to make games, so I won't let that stop me. Just keep moving ahead. I remember once, because at one of these conferences, there is usually the conferences upstairs where you get to hear from industry experts, and then downstairs is a big marketing show, the latest games and everything else. And at these shows, you have these beautiful women marketing the games, giving up pamphlets, and they're known as booth babes. And I was down on the floor collecting pamphlets and looking at the latest gaming technology, and someone said to me, "Oh, are you one of the marketing girls?" In other words, booth babe. And I was like, "No, actually, I have my own company, Metia Interactive, and I design games." It was like, "You don't look like a game designer. You don't look like a game developer." And I was like, well, what does a game designer and a game developer look like? So I kind of realised that there was this kind of thing there, and I thought, oh well, I can either let it bother me or not. So I carried on. Now that was only one of the obstacles, because it wasn't easy. I mean, I was coming into an industry that I knew nothing about, apart from kind of understanding how games work, because I played them. And so I had a lot to learn. So on top of facing things like, well, girls don't play games, so girls don't make games. It was like, well, actually, girls do play games. Just go and ask all my cousins, because we used to hang out at the Spaceys and play games with each other. And to, well, you've got no reputation, you've got no money, so looks like you're going nowhere fast. So you had to put up with all these kind of little comments and bits and pieces along the way that were really annoying, but I think what I did was sort of use it to motivate me even further. I decided at that time, knowing all of that, facing, these bits and pieces and this kind of talk about, girls don't make games and you're not going to get very far, I sort of really had to stand there and think before I went any further, is this what I really want to do? And I had decided, yes, this is really what I want to do. And would I let things and remarks like that affect me? Yeah, it does. It really does. But I'll carry on. I'll just move ahead. The focus, once I decided that was it, I'm going to do this no matter what, it was just about focusing and moving forward, about how I'm going to approach what I do the best way I could. And it took a lot of thought, and it took a lot of motivation, and I was lucky to have my family and friends, help support me and push me forward and follow the dream that I had. I had to pivot, I will say. There were little pivots along the path. It wasn't just direct. I had this focus that I wanted to follow. I had this vision, but along the ways I had to sort of, divert a little bit and come back onto the main track. Of course, and all through that, well, that picture's a little bit violent, but anyway. I just had to be strong, sort of go out there and, put the real kaha behind what I was doing and just make sure that I could carry on and keep my head up high. So I look back now, and I look back at this journey of mine, and I think, wow, I'm crazy, because I think about all the hard times and all that, but I think I'm crazy in a good way, well, not in a bad way. It's like, yeah, because if I hadn't sort of followed my dream and kept the focus and moved ahead, I wouldn't be where I am today. I'd still be in hospo. Nothing wrong with hospitality, but it's that's where I would be. I wouldn't have ventured out of my comfort zone. So all those pictures I just showed you, that's to a game that we've just almost finished developing called Guardian. And this character's name is Maya. This game will be out next month. So it's a game book, it's an interactive story featuring this character who kind of goes through the similar journey that I went through, but in a completely different world. So it's fantasy, There's obstacles. She knows what she's got to do. She knows where she's going, and she eventually gets there. So you'll be able to download that for free when it's out and have a read. I've run out of time. Just coming back quickly, my company 14 years ago, Metia Interactive. Metia is part of a Māori phrase which means do it. So it's actually 2 words, me and tia. I put it together. Mum was like, it's not 1 word, it's 2 words. And I'm like, it's all right, Mum. And of course my slogan there is making serious fun, which kind of has a double meaning to it, based on the kind of games that I want to develop. So our first game was called Cube, published for the PlayStation Portable in 2007. It was a puzzler, and it's a puzzler game, and it was published worldwide. And that was my first commercial success that I had. That was tough. To publish for Sony, you have to be licensed. They have to approve your idea before you can even take a foot in the door. So I felt great and relieved when they said, yeah, we like your idea, you can develop that game for our platform. It's like, yes, awesome. And since then I've moved on to games like Sparks, which is absolutely totally different from Cube, where Cube was a non-character-based puzzle game. This is a character-based, almost RPG game, which teaches young people how to manage their depression by using cognitive behavioural therapy. It went through clinical trials, which was sort of a world first, and it was awarded 2 international awards from UNESCO and from the United Nations. Yeah, so that was a big thing. And of course, on the flip side of that, we've developed games like Māori Power Wars, which isn't educational as such, which is quite fun, a fun pick-up and play game. But the cool thing about it is based on Māori mythology, and it's available in Te Reo Māori as well. And currently, we're just finishing off here. This was part of my master's, developing a game called Takaro, which teaches Rangatahi, it gives them an understanding of coding concepts. So it doesn't teach, I say it's for Rangatahi, but it's actually for anybody that wants to understand the idea behind coding and how it works. What's the point of it? What is a loop? What is a function? And it's based, you might have recognised the cube thing in there, but it's very similar to that. The difference is you get to a hack window that you open up, and you've been through the level, you collect the code blocks, and they show up in your library, and then you can drag and drop them over to a sequence, and then execute the sequence, which gets this robot here to move ahead. So it just shows kids that, hey, if you can do this, then you can go and buy a robot kit, put the software on and control a robot. So it's the same thing we've done, we've just made it inside a game. So there's some more information there on the playtakaro.com site, and this is going into schools within the next 2 weeks. And I think I've gone way over my time. Thank you.